The season is set. The Lopes enter a new era ushered in by a couple of distinguished coaches. The grind of the offseason now springs itself into the spotlight. They're ready, and they're hungry. What are the expectations for Grand Canyon this season? Who will stand out? We'll have these answers and more on Center Court with the Lopes. Welcome to Center Court with the Lopes, presented by Talking Stick Resort. I'm Barry Butel, joined by the head coach of GCU men's basketball, Bryce Drew. And Bryce, thanks so much for joining us on this season preview, a look ahead, and finally we get to look ahead, right? We've been all waiting to, what was going to pan out with the pandemic, but the season is scheduled to start November 25th.
Well, we are excited to get started finally. Very blessed to get the job back in March, and boy, it seems like it's 2 years since, waiting for practice to start, waiting for seasons to start. So we're finally getting there, and the anticipation is growing by the day.
Now, you mentioned you've been working with the team since you were hired and with the team in March, I believe. All that time, how have you adjusted with this roster, with the new faces, with the returnees, with your staff? How you've been able to kind of induce your new culture into this team?
Well, personally, I don't know if I can't speak for the players or for my assistants, but personally, I've really enjoyed the whole GCU experience from the campus perspective, but our team has really been growing by the day. And I think you have returning players that are very talented, that have had great careers so far at GCU, to some incoming players that we look to make immediate impacts for, and a very experienced coaching staff. And I'm very pleased with our coaching staff, with the experience and the knowledge that they bring to our team.
You came from established programs, obviously also played in the NBA as well, Valpo and also Vanderbilt. When you come to Grand Canyon University, tell us a little bit about the facilities and the support that you received on campus.
First class, going from the top down, President Mueller, his vision for GCU and what he's done at GCU in a short amount of time. I say if it was biblical times, it would be in the Bible, the growth that GCU has experienced. But I think as you talk to our players, as I've done in individual meetings, what's really stood out to me is just their love of the school. They love the campus. I hear the word family come up a lot. I heard friendly come up. I heard just that they love being around the students and hanging out at night on campus. And so out of all the schools I've been to, this is by far the one that stood out the most, with players just loving their GCU experience.
I think fans are anxious to see what type of team you're going to put on the floor. Can you kind of talk about some of the pillars of what you really want to instill when the team is on the floor?
The first thing we want to do is we want to defend. And, as we looked at some of the defensive numbers last year, we had a very hard time protecting the paint, protecting the rim. Yep. So that's been our first, prerogative going in is, hey, we're going to defend, and that's where it's all going to start. And so I really commend some of the guys that are really good offensive players that maybe defense isn't their forte. They've really improved in a short amount of time, defensively. Are we where we want to be? Absolutely not, but that's where it's going to start. Then offensively, we want to push the ball. We want to advance it. We'd love to score in 5 seconds if we can. If not, we think we're going to be one of the bigger teams in the league, and so we want to be able to get the ball inside and play inside out a lot this year.
Well, you mentioned one of the bigger teams in the league, Alessandro Laver, obviously one of those guys, but eligibility was granted to Ash Midgard, the transfer. This guy's a 7-footer, and I don't know what percentage of body fat, but it's got to be in the single digits. You got a couple of twin towers now down low.
We do, and they've played very well together in practice. They complement each other very well. Ali's been shooting the ball from the outside at a high level, and Ash is very good around the rim. We call him Ash because it's as Bjorn Midgard, and usually it's going to get botched several times before you get it right. So we just go Ash to keep it simple.
When you welcome back some of the players, the returnees, what do you see from those guys? Oscar Freyer, thankfully, is coming back. The high flyer fans, obviously, he puts on a show sometimes in GCU Arena. Great to see him as well. But some of the other returnees and the newcomers, can you talk a little bit about your team as a whole?
I believe one of the hardest positions is the point guard position from high school to college. And last year Javon Blackshear was WAC Freshman of the Year, and that says a lot for a freshman, because again, it's kind of like a quarterback in football. You got to make so many reads every time up the court that other players don't have to make. And we really look for him to make another significant jump this year from freshman to sophomore year. We want him to score the basketball a little bit more. We want him to be a little more aggressive, getting in the paint, in transition. And so, he's been very good so far in practice, and we need for him to have a big year.
Your assistant coaches, your staff that you assembled, can you talk a little bit about them before we toss over to Paul when he chats with them?
Paul will do a much better job interrogating them, bringing out information, and that I'll probably be able to give you. But what I've been most impressed, and as I went out to pick a staff, I looked at a couple things. One is, if my son's on the team, because I treat, again, our players as if they're my sons, is if one of our coaches is in a closed door room with just that player, do I trust that coach, what they're saying, from a life perspective, from a moral perspective, from a basketball perspective. And that's one of my big things in hiring, is having that trust factor, that we're going to be on the same page and we're all going in the same direction. And so very pleased with our staff, and how they communicate with our players. And then the next part is just having experience. We have someone who played in the NBA. We have someone who's played, in college and gone to NCAA tournaments. That's a guard. We have a wing who's trained all types of professional players. And so we really feel like we have a good mix that every player on the team can really relate to, either one or the other in a certain way.
Well, let's send it over to Paul Coro with Bryce Drew's coaching staff.
Thanks, Barry and Bryce. Not only did GCU land the best available head coach in Bryce Drew, but they scored big with assistant coaches too, all of whom have Power 5 experience. And nobody maybe had a better idea of what was going on at GCU than Jamal Walker, one of the assistant coaches who spent time in the state at U of A before he went to 8 years at Illinois, who played at GCU Arena last year. What kind of clue did that give you about what was going on here at GCU?
You can always see, obviously you see they had an electric environment going on, and then the passion in which the fans got behind the players, you can honestly see that something special was brewing here.
And I love watching you in practice because you lock in on defense. What do you see in the potential of this team and the talent you have?
We have a lot of potential. I think we have good size around the basket with Alessandro and Ashby on mid guard. And then we have some guards who have some quickness and some toughness with them. So I think it's got to be a team effort collectively. We got to rebound the basketball a lot better than what we've done in the past. But I really like the potential of this group defensively.
And as a former college point guard, you've been paired with Javon Blackshear Jr., who's obviously made a huge imprint as WAC Freshman of the Year. But where do you see his next stage of development now?
I think he's got to do a little bit better job in his leadership vocally. I mean, really good leader. He's tough, but being more vocal, taking more ownership in the direction of this program. I think Javon can have a lot of say in what we do in the next couple of years, and I think he likes that opportunity, and that's why he came here. And so to get him to do that on a vocal and a leadership standpoint is very important, and him his ability to shoot the basketball from the perimeter. He's got to become a better shooter, and he's working really, really hard. He spent a lot of time on his own and along with our coaching staff to create a better shot for himself, particularly from the three-point range where he shot like, I think, 29% last year. And he's got to do a better job with that, and I think if he does, he's going to be not only more than a freshman of the year, he's going to be hopefully the player of the year someday soon.
Well, we mentioned experience. How about Ed Schilling's resume? Indiana, Sweet 16 teams at UCLA, worked with Calipari in the NBA, UMass, Memphis, was a head coach at Wright State. You take all of that, what made GCU seem special to you?
Well, I just thought it was something really special. One, because of the Bryce Drew being the first thing, but then also just the commitment of the administration. You look at the facilities that GCU has, you look at the university itself and its growth and its trajectory to continue to grow. I just think it was something that's going to be really, really special.
Ed has great energy in practice, still handles the rock as well as anybody out there, really likes developing players. You've had 3 months with these guys. What have you seen from them and their willingness to improve?
Well, I think that's what you said was key, their willingness to be coached. And I think they were very, very hungry, very thirsty to get better. And one of the things that's been very refreshing coming from the Indiana and UCLA and places like that was just their attitude and how they were receptive to the coaching. And so that's probably been the biggest thing, is that they want to be coached. And because of that, it makes us want to do a better job for them because of how they do have a passion to get better.
And Coach Drew isn't the only one with a basketball family. Ed's wife, April, is a WNBA assistant coach. What's that like to go home, have another coach's mind and set of eyes to bounce things off?
Well, it's great. It's fun. We have obviously a lot of common ground, and we can come back and say, hey, we ran this today, and being able to share drills, being able to share set plays, things like that. It's just fun, and more than anything else, you just have great common ground, and we don't have to fight over what movie to watch. We like to watch basketball.
In order of height, we come to Casey Shaw, who might be the tallest college basketball coach this side of Patrick Ewing. He's the first guy who can look Alessandro Laver and Asbjorn Midtgaard in the eye. And as somebody who played in the NBA and overseas for 13 years, how does that help when a big man has a coach who can look him in the eye like that relatively?
Well, all I know is Coach Drew has given me clear instructions to recruit only players that are taller than me. So that's what we're trying to do. But those guys have been a real joy to work with. Alessandro, of course, he's so skilled. I'd played in Italy professionally for 10 years, and so we've gotten a chance to speak a little Italian together, but I'm excited for his year this year as a senior. And then Ash, I got to watch him in high school, and the first time I saw him, I remember watching him, and I see a kid out there who's 7 foot tall, 280 pounds, and no joke, he dove on the floor no less than 4 times. And I thought, this is amazing. He plays with a motor, he plays tough, he plays hard, he protects the basket. Those two together are going to be one of the best front courts in the country, in my opinion.
And you've got a pretty special bond with Bryce Drew. It might be a little bit more than the 3 seasons you spent on the bench together at Vanderbilt. You're married to a sister, Dana, for 25 years, have 4 kids. And it all started with a recruiting trip?
Well, it did. The first time I met Coach Drew, he was a senior in high school, and my coach at Toledo, where my wife played, like Coach Schilling, my wife played college, was an All-American, and I remember my coach asking me to host a high-level recruit, one that possibly we have a chance because his sister's here, and that was Bryce Drew. That was the first time I met him, and we've been really close friends. We were drafted together in 1998. He was the 16th pick, and I was the 37th pick. And it's just been a great friendship, and I've had a lot of time to learn a lot from him and his family. Of course, his father, who's a Hall of Fame coach as well.
Yeah, speaking of him, your father-in-law, Homer Drew, has moved here to the Valley too. What's that like for your kids to have grandpa around and for this program to have a Hall of Fame coach to weigh in?
It's amazing, and I can tell you, he is an incredible man. People sometimes get a chance to see him publicly, but the way he lives his life with integrity, the values that he has, he's been an incredible mentor for me from the coaching side, but more so just seeing him love his wife, love his children, raise his family, teach his sons how to be great men of God and character. And that's, of course, rubbed off on me. And I just thank God every day that I get a chance to have a family like this and a father-in-law like him.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's great to have you here, and it's also great to have Molly Mueller here. Let's go to Barry and meet the new women's basketball coach.
Ready? Compete! Compete! You've got to have a motor to play in this system. There you go, good! Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Come on, Tara! Good hustle! Good, go, good, there you go, good job. You want to play fast? This is how we're going to play fast. Camp Grit might not be my favorite camp day. Okay, it's probably Camp Lockdown. Quick, 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 active, jump, jump. We are gonna cut down nets because we're gonna be great defenders. Stunt with your left, trace with your right. Show me your bucket right here. Atta baby.
Center Court with the Lopes continues, and I am now joined by the head coach at GCU Women's Basketball, Molly Mueller. Molly, great to see you. It is great to finally talk about the start of a basketball season. You and your staff and the team have to be excited about basketball starting later in November.
We are. There's some finality to it now. We were always kind of on the edge of our seat wondering what was going to happen, what decisions were going to be made. So now that there's a season, we're moving forward, enjoying practice, and working towards a goal.
The Western Athletic Conference coming out with a back-to-back scenario. One team will come in for back-to-back games in another opponent's venue. How do you approach that, knowing that you're going to be playing the same team on what could be back-to-back nights?
Well, you know, it makes sense for travel purposes, and obviously we want the safest environment, and we want to be able to play. So that allows us to do both. It'll be interesting when it comes to a strategy perspective and a coaching perspective, because you turn around and you've got who knows how long, but it's going to be a short turnaround to scout and make adjustments on the same opponent, and we've never done that before. So we're going to have to put our heads together as a staff and see how we could use that to our advantage, but we're excited just to play. That's all we want to do is play.
And we've had to deal, obviously, with COVID protocols and adhere to all of the guidelines, the health guidelines. But you've been with your staff, with this team for a number of months now. Have you been able to indoctrinate the team with a new culture, a new attitude, your style of basketball?
Yeah, that's been probably the most gratifying thing to me, is we don't know each other, and all of a sudden here we are day to day, seeing each other, forming those relationships, forming those bonds, just to see the growth from day one Zoom to now like in-person 5-on-5 practices, getting on a court. It's been, for me, one of the best scenarios I could have dreamed of when taking over a program, because I got to get a little bit deeper into the relationship piece before I was like, we got to throw the ball on the court and put a brand of basketball together. So it's been kind of a blessing in disguise for me, just to kind of step back and not feel rushed to get to the X's and O's and really get to know these players. And I think that was a good foundation for us to move forward on the court.
Well, you're coming from a winning tradition. The last 6 seasons, 180 and 17 over the course of the last 6 seasons, a 2-time Coach of the Year. Last year, you were undefeated up until the cancellation of the tournament. What is the recipe for your success?
Put a lot of good people around you. You know, you got to recruit great players, great people that not only fit the culture piece, but are able to play your style. And our style is very unique, I think, when you're looking at that defensive brand and that fast-paced brand. I've got a phenomenal staff. Oh my goodness, they're doers, and they get what I want out of a program, and they have high expectations for themselves, for their team. They form great relationships with our kids. So all that makes a pretty good recipe for success. You know, culture is a buzzword, but it's so strong. You know, the chemistry you have as a team, knowing that you're going into battle and you've got each other's back. You know, we'd run through a brick wall for our players, and I think they do the same thing for us. So I just think going into this season especially, you've got to build that foundation of trust. And we've established that great culture in the past, and I think just carrying it over to this year is key.
You mentioned a defensive style, but it's up-tempo, right? It's definitely a high possession style of play. I think fans are going to really enjoy watching GCU women's basketball under your tutelage.
Yeah, it's a great brand to teach. I love teaching it. It's a great brand to play, says our players, and it's a great brand to watch for the fans. So that high pace, that energy, that intensity, it's really exciting. It's exciting basketball, and we're getting after it all the time. You know, we're getting after loose balls. We're taking charges. I have a saying, 50-50 balls are 100% ours. So nice. We practice like that too. So it becomes very natural in a game that's just how we're going to play, because that's how we practice. So it's a fun brand to watch, fun brand to coach, fun brand to play. So overall, you know, you're getting after it and you're working hard, and that hard work pays off when you're playing this style of basketball.
You mentioned the benefit of those Zoom calls, kind of building on team culture, building that family attitude within the core of the team. But, you know, family is big also off of the court, and obviously you've got a growing family. How do you balance that? And obviously it's something that's of utmost importance to you.
It is. I love this job because I can blend my basketball family and then my family at home. So they're coming and watching practices, or we'll have the girls over, and you know, Crosby, my 4-year-old, just thinks that they are just the bee's knees. They love to be around each other, and she'll make pictures for them. She just made pictures for our GA, and she has it hanging in her office. So, you know, to me, especially when coaching young women, I want to be that example to them that you can do both, and you can do both well. You can be a mom, you can have a career, and I hope that I'm displaying that to them so they can believe that someday they can do that too.
The team on the court, we know about some of the returners. Can you tell us a little bit about the Taylor Caldwells, the Laura Pierras, but Pierra? Can you talk a little bit about some of the newcomers? And you also got a Gatorade Player of the Year from Missouri, and Katie Scott joining the team as well.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned LP and TC as new returners, and TC's coming back from that ACL injury, so I know a lot of GCU fans kind of are wondering what her game's going to be like, and I've been so impressed with her at practice. She's got some poise. You know, when coming back from an injury, it's just 2 steps forward and getting through some of those hurdles, and she's attacked it really, really well. So I'm excited for GCU fans to see her on the court. She's pretty consistent and even keel, which I like that about her. And then you have LP, who's kind of the fire plug out there, who can really run an offense for us at the point guard position. And, just mixing in with those other returners, I think we've got a nice core group that can play this style, which was good for me because I had a certain style in mind, and now I inherited some kids that were athletic enough to be able to play and get up and down the way I want to. And then we put in our freshmen, Tiara and Katie. And Tiara has a sister, Tiana, and it's fun to see those sisters go at it because I reminisce about that. I played college ball with my sister, so I got a little heated every once in a while, but that little competitive edge is kind of fun in practice. So, they'll keep each other accountable, if you will, on the practice floor. But they're both going to be great pieces for us. Tiara's going to surprise a lot of people in this league. If a system was built for her, it's this system to play in. So she's really taken a leap from day one. I've been so pleased with her. I think both her and Katie have a shot at becoming on the all newcomer team. Katie being the Gatorade Missouri Player of the Year, she's skilled. Right? I mean, you don't get those accolades without being a very skilled basketball player. So I told them both they can't come in as freshmen. Like, we're going to get them into the rotation, and they're going to play big minutes for us. Nice. So I think they're excited about that. But, the learning curve of a freshman has to be a little bit shorter than typical. But all in all, everything's going really well. The kids are really buying in. I'm loving kind of their attitude towards what we're doing and how they want to see this season. And they've got goals, and we're doing the things that right now that we need to do to attain those goals.
It was great to see the 2026 Women's Final Four coming to Phoenix. Great for women's basketball right here in our own backyard. It's got to be of utmost importance as you try to maintain and gain relationships in the state of Arizona. Great hotbed for basketball.
Yeah, this is huge for our community and for women's basketball and growing our game. And 2026 can't get here soon enough. I mean, I'm just so excited to be able to host that. And GCU, kind of being the only school right in Phoenix, is big for us. I think even from a recruiting standpoint, seeing kind of the big stage take place right in our backyard. And I'm very excited to host that. And again, think it's great for our community and our game.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And we are going to send it over to Paul Coro, who is with your assistant coaching staff that you talked about a little bit earlier. You've got one of the best in the business. Oh,
those are my people. They're awesome. I can't wait for you guys to meet them, and they're just great. They understand what it takes. They're all new to Phoenix, so we're enjoying this ride together and couldn't be more thrilled to have them on my team, that's for sure.
All right, Paul, we'll send it over to you.
Thanks, Barry and Molly. If you want to run a system successfully like Molly Mueller has for years, then you better have the right assistants, and familiarity can be a big part of that. And we see that in the staff she's assembled. First, we introduce you to Emily Ragsdale, who worked with Molly Mueller for 3 years at Drury before becoming a head coach at Roosevelt University in Chicago. And how much did that 1 year of moving a seat over help you take this job?
It gives you a totally different perspective on the game itself. Learned a lot from Molly in my 3 years of working for her and wanted to take that next step, but it was taking over a program that needed to be rebuilded. So you go through a bunch of different scenarios, and I think that's prepared me a lot for this because there is a process to it, and everyone always says trust that process, and you got to be reminded of it daily, and you'll see big leaps in those couple first months. I mean, from July till now in October, our team has made strides, and I think that is a huge part of it, and that year of experience as a head coach of a rebuilding a program, I think made tremendous amounts of just me realizing that for this year.
And by spending those 3 years together at Drury, what did you learn about the system and how to implement it with young people?
Well, I started as a GA, so you kind of work your way up, and I learned so much from her, just soaking in every single day of practice in the office, what it takes to build a successful program, learning the system, seeing different classes go through it, and each year having a different set of girls, I think made a huge difference because then you're also trying to tweak it towards the personnel that you have. And it was awesome, and it's been fun trying to do it with this team.
We should also congratulate Emily, proud new mom to Avante. We got to thank Avante for coming early so that you could be available for practices. But that also creates kind of the special bond with you and Coach Mueller, both as new mom. She had her second child in January. What kind of atmosphere does that create in a program?
Coach Mueller was one of the first people I texted about finding out that we were expecting, and it's been great because I get to come to the office every day and be like, is this normal? Is this how it's supposed to be? And having that mom role model to bounce ideas off of, or what do you do if this happens, has been great.
And speaking of fitting life around basketball, the preseason had a slight interruption when the staff had to go to a wedding, and it was Buck Shields, another assistant on the staff. And what was that like for you to go through a career transition while planning a wedding?
It was kind of a logistical nightmare, just dealing with the pandemic and the change of job and then having to change the wedding date. Luckily, my wife was on top of everything, and we had a phenomenal wedding planner that I was hesitant about even hiring from the get-go because I didn't think it was that important, but then come to find out she was kind of the savior of the entire situation.
Yeah. Well, Buck also spent 3 years with Molly at Drury. You guys went an amazing 108-4 during your time together there. So what do you think about transitioning what you and Emily and Molly have done there to GCU?
It was a great learning experience there, working with Coach Mueller these past 2 years. Just kind of opened my eyes to, what the system is fully capable of. Walking into a opportunity where the environment was set, the culture was set, and to see it at its peak, just kind of gives you that drive even more to, get this team and get this program, up to that level. And just to, experience that, after being in there firsthand, it definitely helps with the transition.
And finally, here's the Division I guard out of Blue Springs, Missouri. Not too far removed from her playing days at Alabama and Kansas State. Carilo Middlebrook, what does that do for you to help relate to players when you're that close to your playing career?
I think they're able to trust that, okay, here's somebody who was just in it not too long ago, and she kind of understands where I'm coming from, and I can still kind of see the game as a player also, have that player perspective as well. And so I think that it just makes it easy for them to come to me and trust that, like, hey, if we're saying something and just reiterating what, like, Coach Mueller has said, and, maybe they can take it a little bit a different way just because, like, oh, okay, she was just playing a few years ago. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, Emily and Buck knew what was coming with that Molly Miller energy, but you spent 2 seasons coaching at Evansville and now joined the staff. What has that been like for you to appreciate what she builds in a program?
I mean, with Coach Mueller, it's like the epitome of what you put into it is what you get out. And so, like, everybody hears that and you believe it, but then with the system that, we play and that style, like, she puts in so much energy day in and day out. And I think that's one of the things that I've been able to learn from the most so far, and just the attention to detail, whether that's player personnel or practice plans, all that type of stuff. And so she truly does pour everything into it, and that's why she's able to ask a lot from players.
All right, thank you, Rye. And now let's go back to campus, and we'll go to student correspondent Montana, who is with the rowdiest student section in America, the Havocs.
Thanks, Paul. I'm joined with Havoc leaders Josh and Grace, where we just wrapped up the first Havocs hangout of the season. Tell me, how do you feel the event went tonight?
Well, it was a great turnout. Honestly, we were so excited to have everyone back together. It was a great way to kick off the year for sure. We got to teach everyone some of the Havocs traditions, so all of the freshmen that are new and coming in, it was great to get to meet some of them and to teach them all the things that we do as Havocs.
Now, the biggest question of all that every Havoc is asking at this point is, will there be Havocs allowed in the arena this season?
We're definitely optimistic that is going to be something that we can have this year for the students. We have a plan in place that we feel confident is going to be able to move forward at some point to have students in the arena this year. We are obviously hoping that works out, and we really do expect that students can be in the arena at some time this year.
Now, for students who may not be able to attend the games in the arena, is there any plans in place for those Havocs to view the games?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're exploring different options just because obviously with everything being so difficult right now, we really want to accommodate as best as possible, especially considering that, we are the biggest party in college basketball and we want to continue that no matter what it looks like. So we are thinking about having watch parties out on the arena lawn and also just making it easy for people to stream the games and watch from their rooms as well if that makes them more comfortable.
Now, what are some of the other changes that you expect to see this season from the Havocs?
So some of the other things that we're expecting because of COVID, we know it's going to be different. So as Grace talked about, some of the watch party things that we may do, if we are able to get students in the arena, it will be socially distanced and masked and definitely focused on being safe for the students. We are complying with all CDC guidelines and making sure that we can keep the same Havocs energy and make it a safe environment.
Now, throughout this entire pandemic, what has the support from the executive staff been like?
GCU is just a very unique environment in that it starts from the top and it works all the way down to the students. With President Mueller and all of the leadership team, the executive staff, they are working day and night to take care of the students. And they really have dedicated so much to making sure that the students could have the best year possible with still being safe and following CDC guidelines. And so we as GCU students are so fortunate to have them on our side. And like I said, they're working so hard to make this year special. So.
We're also so fortunate to bring the biggest party in all of college basketball. So, how are you going to continue to live up to those expectations this year?
Well, we know that we've set the bar high in past years, and we want to make sure that we maintain that level of excitement and enthusiasm from the Havocs. And so, when a lot of other schools might not be able to keep that energy up, we're really pushing, whether through students in the arena or the watch party outside, that we can really keep that excitement front and center at every game.
Well, we look forward to having that excitement and seeing the energy that the Havocs are going to bring this season. We'll send it back to Barry in the studio.
Center Court with the Lopes continues. Barry Butel, joined by the president of Grand Canyon University, Brian Mueller. Brian, thanks so much for joining us. The start of a basketball season, there's always excitement. This year, 2020, albeit a little bit delayed, right?
It's going to be a little bit different and a little bit delayed, but the excitement level is going to be the same. We're going to make sure that it is the same. There's a lot of planning that's going into this, and I think what we're going to do this year for our fans is going to catapult GCU basketball to another level because of how it's going to compare to what everybody else is doing. Our students are so excited. Our Havoc leaders are so excited. These new coaching staffs are going to bring an element to this thing that just in and of itself is going to lift it. So different and delayed, but it's going to be just as exciting.
Well, let's talk about the coaching staffs. Molly Miller comes in, a two-time coach of the year at the Division II level, 6 years at Drury, 180 victories, only 17 losses. She was unbeaten a year ago before COVID put an end to their tournament. Unbelievable resume coming in, Molly Miller, and a style of basketball that I think fans are going to love.
Yeah, what goes on with the Grand Canyon University men's program in terms of in-game experience, you have people from all over the country that say, you know what, there's nothing like that. There's absolutely nothing like that. And that's what's going to happen to our women's program. We got to fill the lower bowl first. Once we get that filled, then we'll fill the upper bowl, and it will be the same thing as the men's program. We're so excited that Molly's here, that her coaching staff's here, their ability to recruit, their ability to teach and coach, to get players to play at a very, very high level from an intensity perspective. It is going to be a story. Women's basketball at GCU is going to be the same kind of story the men's program is.
It'll be exciting to follow the program, and again, it is going to be an up-tempo, defensive-minded, high-possession game. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. On the men's side, Bryce Drew comes in with his staff. He's been on the recruiting trail. Looks like we got a Twin Tower situation maybe with Ash Midgard coming in, the transfer being eligible to join Alessandro Laver. You've got to be excited about what you see from the men's side.
You know, getting Bryce Drew was an unbelievable get for us. The fit for the university, and if you go read what people wrote about last year, and they talk about the 3 or 4 coaches that probably got let go, or 2 years ago that should not have let go, he's at the top of the list. We were unbelievably fortunate that he was available at the time that we were looking for a new coaching staff. But then, over and above Bryce, just think about the other 3 guys. They've been at UCLA, Kentucky, Vanderbilt,
Illinois.
Illinois. I mean, who will be pick number 1 in the Big Ten this year? He left there to come here. So when you think about their network, their recruiting ability, their coaching and teaching ability, somebody called Mr. Colangelo the other day and said, you understand, you got a top-rated Power 5 basketball staff in your men's program. And that's not an overstatement. That's true.
Well, we all know the pandemic has impacted all of us, and it's impacted, obviously, college athletics, and adjustments are being made. The impact on the fans, and there will be some fans, at least right now, allowed to come into the arena. I know there's a lot of activities planned outside of the arena for students under social distancing guidelines. What's it going to look like on campus and for the fan experience this season?
So let me start by just saying that, the pandemic is the pandemic. It's a problem. We've taken it seriously, but it's like everything else. We're just going to keep moving forward. Most schools are down in enrollment 10 to 20% this year across the board. We are up in enrollment. We achieved our goals and exceeded them in almost every enrollment goal. So we're just going to keep moving. From a basketball standpoint, we're not 100% sure yet. But if things stay the same the next 30 days, we'll probably have students in the arena. But when you walk into that arena, it's going to look and sound like it's sold out, like it's packed. I can promise you that if you are one of our fans or thinking about becoming a fan, if you can't get in early, you're going to want to watch it on TV, because the programming on TV we think is going to be tremendous. But with the enthusiasm we have from our students, and the things that we've got planned, the band, the cheerleaders, the dance team, when those players run on the floor, they're going to think it's packed. That is the goal, that it's the same thing. And then if things go well for us in the next couple months and we get a vaccine, et cetera, we're really hoping that by the second half of the year, February, March, that things could be back to normal, that we might be back to where it's always been. We're hopeful.
Well, if you're tuning in, Fox 10 Extra is the TV home for GCU basketball. Go to YouTube as well on the GCU channel, or you can log into that Lope Nation app on your phone and watch it right there as well. It's 1580 AM on the radio side, 99.3 FM or 95.9 FM as well, with Michael Potter and Paul Coro. Well, having said all that, another very important group is our wonderful Lopes Club members, and we can't thank them enough for their support and loyalty to GCU, and in particular, the Students Inspiring Students Scholarship Program. And rest assured, no one is going to be losing their spot in that Lopes Club during this pandemic period that we're all experiencing, correct?
Absolutely. We don't want to take any money from season ticket holders or Lopes Club members until we know for sure what we can offer you. As soon as we know that things are changing and we can do something, we will come out with packages and they'll be prorated. But we want to treat you fairly from that standpoint because we really appreciate your support. From a Lopes Club perspective, and those of you that have helped us with the Students Inspiring Student Scholarship Program, I just want you to know that we have not let up. Our foot is on the accelerator. This is so important. It's a program that needs to be modeled throughout the country. We now have over 300 students who've gone through our Learning Lounge program that are on full tuition scholarships at GCU. 95% plus students of color, 100% living below the poverty line. Our last incoming class were students who had achieved a 4.1 GPA in high school, not even knowing if they can go to college. So this is a program that is designed around high energy kids that have really high character. They're going to do something significant with their lives. They're coming out of an impoverished situation. Our goal is to get 800 students in our neighborhood in this program, and we are going to get there. Bob Parsons has just helped us tremendously with a major donation. We're very close to 2 other major donations. We're going to need to raise between $2 and $3 million a year to be able to support 800 of these kids. But these kids are going to transform the neighborhood that we live in. And so if you're able to do it, and you're willing to do it, what I want you to know is you're supporting something that is going to be truly transformative. You're going to be part of something that's going to be truly transformative. And so if you can continue with your contribution, in spite of the fact that we don't know when we can bring you back to the basketball games, we'd really appreciate it. We really need the help, and we want you to know that you're doing something that is really changing not just individuals' lives, but families' lives and an entire neighborhood.
And you feel compelled to give, just log on. It's quite simple. giving.gcu.edu, and then just click on Lopes Club, and you can make your donation right there. The SIS program is truly, as you mentioned, transformational, offering an opportunity for everyone, right, to pursue their passion. It doesn't depend on their socioeconomic position in life.
No, it's designed around kids that are going to inner city high schools, that are living below the poverty line, but have ambition and goals and the character enough to pursue those things. We want to provide the financial support, because these kids are going to be doctors, they're going to be lawyers, they're going to be entrepreneurs, they're going to be teachers, they're going to be nurses, they're going to be living in this community, and they're going to be a big part of this community completely changing and being transformed. And so we can see, if you just drive through our neighborhood, you can see it. You can see it, and so if you can help us, we really appreciate it.
Well, we will welcome them back to the Lopes Club and the fan experience when, of course, the pandemic is put to an end. The excitement of GCU basketball will resume at the end of November. It's going to be a great first season for both Molly Mueller and Bryce Drew. Another great season of GCU basketball, all leading up to that WAC tournament in Las Vegas, right?
Can't wait for that WAC tournament. You know, we're not doing Midnight Madness the way we usually do it. But we are planning a big event prior to both teams leaving for Las Vegas. Ooh. And we're really hoping that by the time that time comes, both of our teams are contending. We know they will be. Both teams will be contending. We will have a chance to, for the first time, go to an NCAA basketball tournament, whether it's men's or women's, and we want to plan a big event that rivals Midnight Madness just prior to leaving. We think things will be different at that time. We can run it more like we usually run it. But, yeah, we got a long season to go through here. We're excited about that. But what's going to happen in Las Vegas in March is going to be special.
Looking forward to that. My thanks to President Mueller, and my thanks to you for tuning in to Center Court with the Lopes.